good fun. Okay, so today we're going to do something on Shavuos. I always think before Yontif we need to prepare for the Yontif and have a look at something that is from Chassidus on the Yontif. But I'm going to do it in the form. This is actually a Sikha of the Rebbe on this Parsha, but it's all connected to Shavuos. So let's see. So we're only going to do the parts that are highlighted, and some of it we'll do outside. Okay. Parshas Bamidbar. The original Sikh is actually in Yiddish, but they've translated the first, 18 volumes of Sikh or something, so it's in Hebrew. Parshas Bamidbar Koirim L'Olam Lifnei Shavuos. So we know that Parshas Bamidbar, this Sikh is interesting. It starts off soft, and then it gets complicated as we go along. It's when I say soft landing, this is a soft launch. Okay. So Parshas Bamidbar we always read before Shavuos. Right? That's where it works. That's where the calendar works. Sometimes you read an additional one, Nosai, depending on the calendar, but Bamidbar is always before Shavuos. Hatam Lakachi, the simple halachic reason that the Gemara gives, is Kedei lahafsik bein hatoichechesh v'prashas b'chukoisel bein matan Torah. It's in order to separate between the curses of this past week and the giving of the Torah. We don't want to go from the chukoisel, from the reprimand into Shavuos. So that's why we break it with Bamidbar, right? That's what the Gemara says. And also, the same thing he said with regard to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, we always read Kisavoy, which has even a bigger rebuke, it's even a bigger Toicha. But we don't want to go straight from there into Rosh Hashanah, so that's why we break. Why do we read these things before Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah? Why is it structured that we should dafka read the Toicha, the rebuke, before Rosh Hashanah and Shavuos? Because both Rosh Hashanah and Shavuos are days of judgment. Rosh Hashanah is a general day of judgment. Shavuos is when we get judged about the fruit of the tree. It says in the Gemara and the Mishnah. So therefore we want to read it so that we have this principle of Tichle Shana V'Kilvei. Let the year with all its tsaris go away, and let the new year begin, the new period begin with all its brachas. Okay. But we still don't want to go straight from it into the Yontif, so we make a break. However, in typical style, the Rebbe says the following: but you can't just say that that's the only reason, because bottom line is, since B'Hashgacha Pratis, the one that breaks between the Toichacha and the Shavuos is Bamidbar, Hechrach Loimer, you must say, Sha'kriya Lifnei Shavuos V'Parshas Bamidbar Dafki, you must say that because it's Bamidbar specifically, it's not just to interrupt between the two. But it's because what we talk about in this parsha must create for us a preparation for Matan Torah. Okay. He says the following. This psikha has two ideas behind this, and we'll try and get through them. There are many Sfarim that talk about this concept of the connection between Midbar and Matan Torah. First of all, Torah was given in the Midbar, and many other things. Okay. Parshas Bamidbar hine beikar b'minyan b'nei Yisrael. So the Parsha of Bamidbar mainly talks about counting the Jews. That's a census, right? That's why the book of Bamidbar, the whole book is called the Numbers, right? That's why it's called that, because it's census. Should be gloloi. Because of this, because of the census in this week's Parsha, and the census which is taken in Parshas Pinchas, but later also in the same sefer, Nikra kol ha-sefer b'shem Chomesh HaPkudim. The whole sefer is called the Chumash HaPkudim, the Chumash of counting. By the way, the numbers is not, the English words are not actually just made up. They have sources. Like we call the book of Bamidbar Numbers, right? Not just a made up thing that some secular person made up. It's actually based on Midrashim. Because really what I mean numbers, we call it the book of Bamidbar, right? That's because that's where it starts. But actually the Midrash has different names for it. For example, Shmois is called the book of redemption. That's why in English it's Exodus. Vayikra is called the book of Torah's Kohanim, the laws of Kohanim, which is why it's called Deuteronomy. I think I don't know what Deuteronomy means, but it's something to do with Kohanim or Levim or Levim maybe. I don't know. Is that what Huh? Sorry, not Deuteronomy. It's called Leviticus. Sorry, it's called Leviticus. That's right, because Leviticus is the tribe of Levi, and the whole book is about Kohanim and the halachas of Kohanim. Okay. So it's like it's Shem Shomatzinu Lakach Minyan. Now the truth is, so obviously this concept of counting, we'll see later why, is a preparation for Matan Torah. Now we already know this from something else. There's another counting which is a preparation for Matan Torah, which is counting Leiber, right? We find a similar concept, minyan, a counting, Sha'achana lematan Torah, which is the preparation of Matan Torah, which is Sfiras Omer. Right? Tzarech La'avin, therefore we have to understand what's this greatness of counting so much so that it creates hachana lematan Torah. Okay. Base, next chol. So, B'tam HaDover, I'm just going quickly because this is sort of an introduction. B'tam HaDover sh'HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzivo lemanes es b'nei Yisrael. What is the reason that Hashem commanded to count the Jewish people? Nemar b'medrash, that's the following medrash. Medrash says, Nimshelu Yisrael ka'arema shel chitim, the Yidden are compared to a heap of wheat, produce, person harvests. Ma chitim alolo nichneses loitzer b'minyan, just like a farmer, when he's successful in his farming and he has this beautiful pile of produce, he brings it into the storage house, counting it. He wants to know how much is there. How much do you harvest? Half a ton, whatever, right? Kach Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem, we are so beloved to Hashem, so to speak. Therefore, Hashem wants to count us all the time. Okay, so we count it. That's Hashem's love for us, Hashem's protectiveness of us, so to speak. The problem is, movement is not understood. Why does a person count the amount of wheat he has? Because it's a valuable thing and it's important, and he wants to know how much he has. When it comes to Hashem, he knows how much he has. He knows the counting already. Why did he command we should be counted? Okay. So the Rebbe brings here a shalah, a great makubal, the shalah HaKadosh. He says like this, Kosav al-kach b'shalah, it's written in shalah, it's brought in Chassidus, Shebekach shemonu es b'nei Yisrael nasu dover shebeminim. When Hashem counted us, we became a counted thing. What does that mean? He's the dover shebeminim loy bottle. Let me give you the background here. There's a Gemara which talks about, many Gemaras talk about this, but there's a particular Gemara that talks about dover shebeminim, a counted thing, in the context of the laws of kashrus, or laws of other things that are prohibited. We have this concept in Torah that something that falls into something else or gets mixed up with something else can become bottle. Bottle becomes nullified, neutralized, whatever you call it, right? And therefore it all becomes okay because it just becomes swamped up, dissolved, so to speak, in that big thing. Okay. The Gemara says that there are certain things that cannot become bottle because they're too significant, they're too prominent. Therefore, it doesn't matter, even if they get mixed into 1,000 things, they can't become bottle. One of them is something that is sold by the number. So, for example, you go into a store, you don't ask for 27 beans, because beans is not something you count. It's not that important that you count them by the bean. So you ask for a pound of beans, a kilo of beans, whatever, right? Okay. Then there are things that are more significant than that. You don't just ask for a bag. For example, eggs. Okay, so eggs is dover sheminya. You ask for a dozen eggs, because eggs get sold by the egg, right? And other things like that. So whatever gets sold by way of counting represents that it's a more important thing. Because it's a more important thing, it doesn't become bottle. So therefore, since Hashem wanted us, okay, so therefore like this, we are Yisrael bein ha'umas, the Jews amongst the nations, Harem kifso bein shivim zeni, we are as sheep amongst 70 wolves, va'alulim heim chas v'shol nibatel bein ha'masoilam, and we are maybe prone to become bottle, right, among the nations of the world. Tziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem commanded lemanus es b'nei Yisrael to count the Jewish people. Kadei shenosh dover sheminyan, we should become a counted thing. And dover sheminyan ain't a bottle. A counted thing is not bottle. Right, beautiful idea. Shall I put on the heat? Has anyone called you? No, I can. Are you cold? Are you cold? You sure everyone's okay? You cold? No. Okay, so we're good now. Fine. Good. Okay.
You're fine.
No, I'm fine. It wasn't because of me. I was just thought. Yonah looked a bit cold, that's why I thought maybe she should call. Okay. Alright. Okay, beautiful idea, but the Rebbe says not quite understood. I will Eina moving Adain, still not completely understood why. So like this. When something is counted, and therefore it doesn't become bottle, it's not the counting that makes us not bottle. What is it? It's its prominence. What does the counting do? The counting just shows you that it's the important thing, right? Again, in the highlighted part, it's not the counting that causes it not to become bottle. Kim Shirak Siman, it's a sign. It's what we call a sign. There's two kinds of signs in halacha. There's a sign that creates the thing, there's a sign that clarifies this thing. We've had this with kashrus before, I've explained this before. This is a siman hamavar, it's a sign that just clarifies es chashivus hador, the importance of this thing, right? Now, now because the Yidden are chashuv, they're important, and therefore they are fit to be counted, they are davar shebeminyan. But they're davar shebeminyan even when they're not counted. You don't have to count them for that. We are a nation that deserves to be counted. Hashem knows who we are. Hashem knows our importance. He knows how precious we are. We are so prominent that we should be counted, but we don't have to be counted, since Hashem knows the number anyway. In other words, when you count eggs, it's because you don't know the number. So you need to know it's a dozen, right? When you know it's 2 dozen or 3 dozen. But the fact that it's counted means that's the important thing. But the fact that you counted it doesn't make it important. It reveals that it's important. Maybe okay. So therefore, the Shema Oifam Tzaref HaMinyan Mapur. So why do you actually need to count it? It still comes back to the question. It's a beautiful idea, but why does Hashem actually still need to count this? So he says like this. The next part, we'll just do the parts that are highlighted. There's a famous idea that he highlights here. Hachidush b'matan Torah chibur el yoinim v'tachtoinim. We know ruchnis v'gashmis. You know what the famous question in Chassidus? Almost every mimer asks this question about Matan Torah. What's the big deal about Matan Torah? We had Torah before. All the people learned Torah. There was always a yeshiva. The Shevet Levi learned Torah in Mitzrayim. Noach learned Torah. Shem and Aver had a yeshiva where Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov learned. Right? Not only that, not only the Torah, but even the mitzvahs. Avraham Avinu kept all the mitzvahs. Yitzchak Avinu called it the mitzvahs. Obviously, there were mitzvahs before. There was Torah before. But what happened to Matan Torah? Right? So the famous idea is that before Matan Torah, as much Torah that was learned and as much mitzvahs that were fulfilled, the Ruchnius and the Gashmius were completely separate. So the famous idea, for example, the Zohar says that when Yaakov Avinu was busy with the sticks there in Parshas Vayetze, with the sheep and the colors and the spotted sticks and the line sticks and all that, he was spiritually generating the spiritual energy that tefillin does. That's what the Zohar says. Whatever we do with tefillin, he was doing with those sticks. However, the sticks remain sticks. He was through a physical action, he was generating a spiritual energy, but the spiritual energy had nothing to do with the sticks. Today, you put on tefillin, suddenly the tefillin becomes holy. Even when you make the tefillin become holy. Mezuzah is holy, Shabbos candles are at different levels, but there's a holiness. Why? Because the whole idea of Matan Torah, before Matan Torah, the world of this world, the physical world, and the world of the spiritual world, the divine worlds were completely separate, and the world was not ready yet to absorb Hashem's presence and holiness and kedusha and the divine energy and so on and so forth. Right? So the Avos of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov were great people. They were very bottled. They were Merkava, wagon to Holocaust, right? But all the mitzvahs they did, they generated tremendous spiritual infusions, but it didn't become absorbed in the world, which of course is not the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation ultimately is to make a dwelling place for Hashem in this world, would mean that Hashem should be permeate the world, that Holocaust, godliness should become absorbed in the physical world. No, they couldn't do that. Okay, it's a whole thing, which is, by the way, a fascinating thing. There's no question that Avraham Avinu's mitzvahs were much higher than our mitzvahs, but nevertheless, there's something we do with our mitzvahs that he couldn't do. Not because of his deficiency, but because of the world's deficiency. Right? Okay, there's a whole thing of we still needed their mitzvahs because we need their mitzvahs to inspire our mitzvahs. That's a whole other discussion. But bottom line, that couldn't happen. So the whole chidush of Matan Torah is the effect that Torah mitzvahs has in the world. To elevate the world, to permeate the world, to refine the world, to make the world holy, to reveal Hashem's presence in the world. Right? Which is the purpose of creation, as we learn always in Chassidus, the idea of Dira B'Tachtonim. Right? Okay. So this is a beautiful thing. Right? In the next highlight. Ma'achar shal veidosam shel Yisrael. La'achar Matan Torah. Since the avoid of the Jewish people, after Matan Torah, he lasais me'olam kedusha, to make the world holy. B'oifen shu atzmos, to the point that the world itself should facilitate the dwelling place for Hashem. Therefore, it's important that the importance and the power of the Jewish people, the souls of the Jewish people, the existence of the Jewish people, it should be that the world needs to feel it, needs to be exposed in the world. It's not enough that it's there intrinsically. If the prominence and the importance of the Jewish people would remain in the spiritual context and wouldn't be expressed in Gashmias, Even though they still wouldn't become bottled because they are a counted thing intrinsically. So we would never become bottled even if Hashem didn't count us. But our importance, our prominence that allows us not to become bottled would be there, and we would survive, but we wouldn't be able to affect the world. So what's the point of the importance and the prominence then? Because before Matan Torah, nothing could affect the world. After Matan Torah, it could be. But that means that it's important to expose that prominence. It has to come into the world, right? To be mashpia. That's why Hashem had to actually count him. He had to reveal in the world the counting. The fact the Shalah, of course, is correct. The Shalah is saying that we have a status of Dover Shebeminyan, a counted thing, and a counted thing is not bottled, but that chashivus, that importance, has to be revealed in the world. You can only do that through actually counting us. Right? In order to express their prominence in something shenikar umurgish, that is felt and recognizable in this physical reality. Yeah? The fizeh, next paragraph. Move on, now we can understand on one level, Maha Kesher bein Parshas Bamidbar. What's the connection between Parshas Bamidbar and the Bein Matan Torah? Because Hashem in Bamidbar counted the Jewish people, not just considered them a counted thing, but actually counted them to express their importance in the world. Therefore, that prepares the world for Matan Torah. That makes possible the concept of Matan Torah. Then they can now make the world a dwelling place and a sanctuary for God, which is the whole purpose of Matan Torah. So the actual counting is intrinsically linked to Matan Torah. Because the whole purpose of counting is a Matan Torah idea. Now, when we say we're counted to become importance, but the importance is there without counting us. So why did Hashem count us? Just to reveal that importance in the world, so that it should have an impact and be absorbed in the world, so we can make the whole world a dwelling place for Hashem, and that's what Matan Torah is all about. Sorry? Yeah, correct. You'll see in a second. It doesn't explain it here, but I think the answer is what explains the next paragraph.
And when he says the world, he means the stones and the rocks and the other nations.
And everything in the world. Technology. Right? Business. Anything that's in the world. And there when you go into the business, the way to serve Hashem really is, you have to know Hashem in everything you do. Hashem has to be felt and recognizable and impact everything that you do. Every worldly part, and engaging with the rest of the world. Being an Or Lagoyim and using what the world, the resources the world produces only for Hashem's service and all that kind of stuff. Yeah? How do you do it in business, for example? So first of all, keeping the halachas of business and not doing, nothing we shouldn't do. And also like by bringing in kedusha. The Rebbe was very big always about having a tzedakah box in your office. Every time the person came, asked the bracha for his business, they would say, probably you have a tzedakah box in your office. You have to make sure you have a bracha. Why? Because it becomes a room of tzedakah. The office becomes elevated. The fact that you give tzedakah in your office, not on your house, becomes right that kind of idea. The Rebbe was very into famous sicha. The Rebbe was very into as much as he was not into engaging with the world to become worldly, which is an important thing to understand. Yet he was very into engaging with the world to make it godly. So, for example, while in many circles they kept and keep away from technology, the Rebbe's view was, no, we have to use technology. It's not a contradiction of the fact he doesn't like people having television in their homes and all that, but the technology is there, so find a way to use it to serve Hashem. It's there for a reason. That's why the Rebbe allowed shiurim on the radio. I mean, nowadays it's common practice, but those days it was only starting to happen, right? And then when television came, and cable television, he allowed his own fabrings to be televised, and all that kind of stuff, right? People used to ask the question that everyone spoke a sikh about people not having televisions in their home, and then he allowed his fabrings to be televised, right? And the answer was simple: you want people that have television, not because something tray for the television, something tray for the content of television. And everything think you should bring that content into your home, but we have to. The vehicle is there, so we have to elevate it. We have to, right? All the same. Okay, that's the idea. So therefore, it starts with this symbolism, this concept of counting us. That of course we have prominence, of course we have unbelievable power, infinite power, but it stays in the ruchnistic world if it's not expressed somehow in the Gashmias. And therefore he has to count us so that it becomes revealed in the world that we're a counted thing. And that gives us the possibility then to engage with the world and impact the world, which is the point of Matan Torah. Says the Rabbi, a very beautiful thing. According to this, we also understood. Why in this parasha, when Hashem takes a census, He says, only count people from 20 years old. Why 20 years old? He says like this. Look at the next highlight. We know the Rabbi says like this. In Pirkei Avos it says, I go through the ages, like when you're 20, when you're 30. It says ben esrim lirdoif. So the first part of the Mishnah says when you're 5 you have to learn to read, when you're 10 you have to learn Mishnah, when you're 15 you have to learn Gemara, 18 you have to get married. Right? In other words, the whole first part of a person's life is steeped in more ruchnius. Right? To prepare for the world, to prepare for the life. So the model is that till 20, your main occupation should be detached from the world a little bit. In other words, more in the environment of Torah mitzvahs, right? The Rebbe was very big into this. There was always people have to be steeped in limud Torah. Bochum after school have to go to yeshiva. What's going to be later? Professional. That's think about it later. Now you have to prepare for life in a spiritual level, right? So therefore, ad esrim shana until 20 years. A person's main occupation needs to be in Torah learning, right? Which means more detached from the world. You get it? Right? From 20, then you pursue the world. That's why 20 is called Lios Yoitzoit Savas, the army age, the military age, in the Chumash, that is, right? But it's not just military age in a physical sense, meaning in a spiritual sense. All of Lotzes La Muhammad Kim B'Shalom, then it's time to start fighting with the world and conquering the world. But before 20, not. So since the whole point of counting, so the 15-year-old is also important. He's also a counted thing. He's not going to become bottle. That's not the problem. The problem is not revealed in the world. Well, until 20, it doesn't have to be revealed in the world. Because your main focus until 20 is not to be revealed in the world. It's to be more detached from the world. And therefore, I think the Levim, that's also the same thing. They were counted separately for a different reason to know how many there were in terms of their service to the Mishkan. But this idea of counting them, I don't think applied to them because, again, they were like pre-20s. Their whole life was more ruchnis. Yeah. They didn't farm, they didn't have real estate. So the Levi represents someone who's steeped in Avodas Hashem. Therefore, not so much engaged in the world, but it doesn't have to be counted. I mean, it must be 3 years. Okay. Beautiful idea. Well, good. Okay. That is one idea about counting. Now I have to go to the next idea. We're starting the thing that says hey, right? It's on page 3. Amur le'il, which like we said before, says the Rebbe, Nikra Sefer Midbar Shem Choyme Shavkudim. So what we're going to learn now is a different word altogether, but it's also about counting. Why counting is such an important link to Matan Torah. So we said that the Sefer Midbar is called Numbers. It's called the Book of Numbers. Therefore, Minyan Guf, with regard to counting, there's a great quality. And therefore, Midbar becomes. So now it's going to go not so much what counting achieves, it's more what counting is. This concept of counting creates a real preparation for Matan Torah. And he says, so like we said before, we have to link it also in, we have to link it into the counting of the Sfira Soimer, which is also preparation for Matan Torah. That we know. We know that counting the Omer is generally the whole idea of counting the Omer is preparation for Matan Torah, but now we're going to learn it in the context of actual counting. So we know the days of the Omer are days where we have to self-refinement, chesed, gvura, and so on. But now he's going to talk about from the concept of counting, actual counting. What he's going to do now is going to talk about the concept of counting, and then he's going to talk about how the counting of Bamidbar and the counting of Sfira Soimer is different, and how they're both important for a preparation of Matan Torah. Okay, so like this. Mahusay shel minyan. What's the concept of counting? The essence of counting is shekulam shovim, that everyone's equal. Hagadol einu yosem be'echad ve'akotnen apochas be'em. No one's higher than, no one's more than the other, no one's less than the other. Okay. B'minyan b'nei Yisrael, the counting of the Jewish people, nimne kol echad Yisrael hevdol. Everyone was just one number, right? You didn't add to the number if you were very important or something, or you didn't get a half if you were less important, or 30 if you were more important. Everyone just got one. Same. Right? Same thing with Sfira Soimer. Gam Sfira Soimer, nimni ma'broim tishri ma'oim v'oisem mispa. We count every day exactly the same. Mivli habe, without looking at the change between days. For example, there are different kinds of days. You might sachol, there are weekdays. There's Rosh Chodesh. We have all these kinds of days in the Omer. We have Rosh Chodesh, we have Chol HaMoed, we have Yom Tov, right, the last days of Pesach, Shabbat, we have Shabbos. We have a range, a spectrum of different types of days. Yet, each day gets exactly the same number. What's Pshat? It says the following. Minyan kol b'nei Yisrael b'shavah, this idea of counting every Yid equally, misyachves le'etzem ha'neshama sheb'Yisrael, talks to the essence of the neshama. Because actually, are we all the same? We're actually not all the same. Not true. On a conscious level, on a revealed level. Not everyone's intellect is the same. Not everyone's knowledge of Torah is the same. Not everyone's level of mitzvahs is the same. It's all different. We're not judging. We're not putting a value on it. But the fact is, there are differences. I mean, it could be that someone tried harder in one area. Maybe he's higher than the person who does whatever. That's not the point. The point is there are differences. We learned in Tanya in the beginning. There are the shamas compared to the head, and the shamas compared to the feet. There are different levels, right? However, she says, with regard to our conscious and revealed faculties and powers, seichel, midas, our intellect, our emotions, chalukim, echad mechaver, each person is different from his friend. Rak mitzad etzem neshama, but when it comes to the essence of the neshama, kol Yisrael shavim, all equal, right? All equal. Etzem neshama is exactly the same by every single Yid. Now, a person can serve Hashem two ways. A person can serve Hashem coming from the essence of the soul, or a person can serve Hashem in a much more conscious way. He understands that it's important to learn Torah, he feels excited about connecting to Hashem. What's the difference? It's like this. What's the difference if you serve Hashem coming from your conscious faculties or from the essence of the neshama? It's like this. When your service of Hashem originates from your more conscious powers, understanding or feeling, then that means that your I, your presence, your ani, yourself, if I serve Hashem because I understand, it's I that understands. Therefore, I'm doing it because I feel it's important. I feel it's worth it. I feel it's very high, right? Therefore, the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs is actually something which is an add-on to who you really are. Very connected, but an add-on. Right? He fulfills Torah mitzvahs. Because that's what his understanding and his feeling and his consciousness and his whatever, his powers, his faculties obligate him or inspire him or guide him to serve Hashem. So there's an I, there's my feeling, there's my understanding. And understanding linked the me with Torah mitzvahs. But we connected, but we different. But when a person reveals the essence of his neshama, which is the oneness with Hashem, nasis kol atzmusoi meuchedes im elokus. Then you become one with Hashem. No difference, no disconnection. Yisrael oiraisim kochabrichu kul lachad. Yidden and Torah and Hashem are all one, as the Zohar says. Let's just explain this in context. We'll explain last week in Tanya, right? The chokhmah of the nefesh, same idea. What does it bring? It brings yichidush b'nefesh. What does it bring? It gives him a serious nefesh. You're talking about the guy who doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs, and yet he jumps into the fire. Why? So what's like this? Because during his lifetime, he's conscious. He didn't serve Hashem on his conscious level, so he didn't understand. So his essence of his neshama was hidden, and his conscious level was not working well. He wasn't understanding Hashem properly. He wasn't feeling Hashem properly. He didn't have passion, right? So because he didn't understand the importance of serving Hashem, so he didn't serve Hashem. So what changed all of a sudden? Changed. His essence of the neshama was revealed. When the essence of the neshama is revealed, I'm not keeping Torah because I think Torah is an important thing. I'm keeping Torah because I am Torah. That's the difference. Suddenly the Yid, when his essence of Hashem becomes revealed, he's not connected to Hashem, he is Hashem. I mean, he's one with Hashem. So therefore, he understands, doesn't understand, feels understand, jumps in the fire. He's not going to do anything that disconnects him from Hashem. Because he is Hashem, right? He's Hashem. He's one with Hashem, right? Okay. Yeah, we're good? Okay. Now, Sfiras Omer is the same thing. Gam Sfiras Omer. We see this idea in Sfiras Omer as well. Is when a person serves Hashem. Because now it's going to translate not so much into Mesiras Nefesh, but in how we serve Hashem, right? In other words, where does this manifest itself? When we serve, okay, so when a person only serves Hashem, b'seichel l'midas. Before he said intellectual, a conceptual thing that we connected, but we're not one with. When the avodah comes to the essence of the neshama, we become one with Hashem. And I gave you an example. That's why Mesiras Nefesh happens. But here he gives much more of a practical example of where this could manifest itself, right? When a person serves Hashem only with his seichel or his midas, his emotions, his intellect, then he gives different values, different things. He'll keep Torah mitzvahs, but he's going to make a big difference between like a holy day and an unholy day, right? When you serve Hashem because you really, you understand everything. Comes Shabbos, Shabbos, he learned he's 20 mamorim on Shabbos works. Wow, it's exciting. You sit down to a Seder, you learn Seders, Bittul, and you get excited. You go into the office on a Wednesday morning, not so excited. Right? You're still serving Hashem, but you don't place the same understanding or the same passion about it, right? Because Shekenis, that's what he says now. He says Shekenis avodas Rosh Chodesh Yontiv v'Shabbos. The avodah of Rosh Chodesh Yontiv Shabbos and Mekayim b'Chayis. He's excited about it. If you look at Shabbos Lasik Avodas Chulim, when it comes to do mundane things, he has no chayis. He'll do it because he has to. Hashem said, you got to earn a living, you got to feed your family. He'll do it. He'll keep the mitzvahs of business, whatever. But he's not excited about it, right? Because he doesn't see its value. When a person awakens his etzem and neshama, right? And then his whole essence becomes one with godliness, and that even affects his brain and his midas, right? There's nothing but different, no difference between weekday and Shabbos. He's a constant servant of Hashem because he's one with Hashem. It's nothing to do with the higher, lower. Hashem wants it, I'm there. Because I'm so one with Hashem, Hashem wants me to do business wants me to I don't know, to schlep tables. If that's what he has to do, that's what he has to do. It does with the same simcha. Very connected to what we spoke about last week, by the way. Right? Because it's got to do also with the bittul of a yid, right? When you become battle, you become one with Hashem, which comes from the etzem and nefesh, there's no differences between one thing. And also it's not about what you feel, what you don't feel, if you're excited, you're not excited, what you understand, you don't understand. It's Hashem's business, it's yours. Right? Okay. Now he says like this. We have this concept of counting. So we see, in other words, now that obviously this becomes a preparation for Matan Torah. Because the purpose of becoming the Torah, the purpose of becoming committed to the Torah and becoming Hashem's nation is not just to become connected to Hashem, it's to become one with Hashem through the Torah. As the Zohar says, Yisrael oiraisav kutchabrichu kulachad. So the idea of Matan Torah, by the way, Hashem revealed His essence to connect to our essence. That was the whole idea, right? So we should become one with Him. That's why Matan Torah starts with Anochi. You know that, yeah? Why Anochi? What's the highest name of Hashem? Yud Kei Vav Kei. But even the highest name of Hashem is not His essence. And even in Yud Kei Vav Kei there's different madrigas. But even so, as long as you're using a name is a description. You're not referring to the essence of Hashem. Right? When it came to Matan Torah, the first word of Matan Torah is Anochi. I am. No name. I am who I am. Hashem in His absolute pure essence. Connecting to our absolute pure essence, which is also not definable. It's just that spark, which is one with Hashem. The vehicle for those two essences, so to speak, to become one or to be revealed as one is the Torah. And that's what Matan Torah is all about. Therefore, before Matan Torah, we need Parshas Bamidbar, so we should awaken our essence of an neshama and create that oneness with Torah and mitzvahs, without the vision of one day is good, one day is not good, one thing is more important, less important, but complete oneness. That's why we have counting in Parshas Bamidbar. We have counting in Sfiras Omer. Sorry?
When did the Yidden receive that essence?
So, it's interesting you say that, right? When did they become Jewish?
So when they left Egypt?
No. Became Jewish, so there's different levels. It only became Jewish really at Matan Torah. We became halachically Jewish at Matan Torah. The process began, the birth of Am Yisrael began at Mitzrayim. the Geirus process began at Mitzrayim, but we actually became Jewish at Matan Torah. And Shulchan Aruch says every day in davening, when we think about, we say before Shema, we say the words of Vonu v'charta mikol am v'loshen, that Hashem chose us. You chose us from all other nations and languages. We should have in mind that refers to Matan Torah. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, right? Now, of course, the neshama was there before. We learned in Tanya that we inherited the neshama from Avraham Avinu, right? So Avraham Avinu was the one to expose that neshama. In fact, the neshama started before by Adam Rishon, but from Adam Rishon to Avraham Avinu, it wasn't revealed at all. It was like, I always give the analogy, it's like you carry, in a negative example, someone can carry a disease, but he hasn't contracted the disease. You know what I'm saying? So there were carriers of the neshama before Avraham Avinu, but no one contracted the neshama.
Okay, so then they got the neshama.
Avraham Avinu sort of contracted the neshama, but it wasn't one with his. It was something in addition to him. It wasn't actually him.
He was the add-on. It was the add-on.
It was kind of the add-on, but the Yidden got the neshama, one neshama with our body. We became one entity of Jewishness. That's at Matan Torah. Right? But reflected a bit in the process leading up to Matan Torah, like the counting we say beforehand. And
So what a shame that the other 4/5 didn't lead.
yeah, that's right.
Come anymore.
Yeah, listen. But like the Rabbi explains, that was because it was before Matan Torah, so you could still opt out.
Yeah.
Like now, Mashiach comes, not opting out. Every Yid's going to be part of it. Right? Now, in typical fashion, so that's very nice. We have this idea of counting. So counting is the idea of exposing the essence of the neshama. Essence of the neshama means we become one with the Torah. That's really the hachana, that's really preparation of Matan Torah, because Matan Torah is not to receive a Torah as we being servants of Hashem in a like an add-on situation that we are connected but not one. We have to reveal the essence of the neshama and serve Hashem from our service of Hashem has to come straight from the essence of the neshama. We will become completely one with Hashem. How's that exposed? How's that facilitated? Through counting. So Hashem counted us and we count the Omer. The question is, what do we need two countings for? What does the census achieve? And what does counting the Omer achieve? Right? He says like this. Minyan, just the next page, the next column, the Parliament, page 4, the second column. Minyan b'nei Yisrael eina kosher l'shum dover achem shum etzem minyan. When Hashem counted us, it's not that counting is not connected to anything else. It's just counting, right? Omer is a bit different, right? Sfiras Omer, we call it the counting of the Omer. So we are counting, and yes, it's connected to the essence of the neshama because every day is the same. But it's not just counting; it's connected to other things. It's called Sfiras HaOmer. We're counting the Omer. Sfiras HaYamim she'avru la'an kravas Omer. We're counting days that came from the korban of the Omer, right? What is the Omer? It's a korban. In other words, it's not just an exposure of the essence of the neshama. We're now talking about on an application level where we are serving Hashem, right? Right. Where do you need to serve Hashem? What part of us needs actually to serve Hashem? No, not our essence of our neshama. Why? The essence of the neshama actually, the serving of Hashem has more to do with our conscious levels. Did the guy jumped into the fire with not serving Hashem all his life? He needed avodah to jump into the fire? No, he just jumped into the fire because that's what he is. The etzem of Hashem is already one with Hashem. Where we require avodah is more in the conscious levels of our neshama, our seichel, our midas, our rotzen, our desire, and of course the nefesh habanos. The animal soul needs a lot of avodah, right? Now that's Sfiras Omer. So Sfiras Omer has to do with avodah. So what's going on here? We said Sfiras Omer is counting. Counting has to do with the essence of the neshama. Now we're talking about counting. Sfiras Omer is really a process of avodah. Avodah is not needed on. So this is a very. Let me explain it outside. It's a complicated thing. Let me explain it. This is like this. There's two stages of how this works. Yes, the whole idea of Matan Torah is to serve Hashem from a perspective of the essence of the neshama, which means we're not connected to Hashem, we are one with Hashem, right? How that happens is in two stages. First stage is the revelation of the etzem neshama, the exposure of the essence of the neshama, which Hashem ignites somehow, counts us. He says, You have an essence and a neshama. That's why I'm counting each of you with the same number, because I'm revealing your essence of a neshama. Yeah. Now, what's our job? Our job is to take that connection, that oneness, from the essence of the neshama, and bring it in to the levels of avodah. Bring it in to our seichel and our midas. In other words, like this. The guy who jumps into the fire, it's not enough. We know that, right? We talk about the pintel yid, and we talk about how it's possible for someone never to serve Hashem, and then suddenly his etzem and Hashem booms, and he jumps into the fire, right? Or a yid comes, doesn't keep Torah mitzvah the whole year round, and he comes to the Ne'ilah. Or it comes to Yizkor Yom Kippur. What's happening? Because the essence and Hashem. Okay. That's very beautiful. I mean, we always talk about it, it's praising, it's amazing to see the pintel yid, right? But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to bring service of Hashem into all layers of our existence. But here's the danger, you see. We could bring Avodah Hashem, we could keep Torah mitzvahs in seichel and in midas, but it could be that when we do that, as we said before, we leave behind the essence of the neshama. So you say, I'm a good guy. I'm not only serving Hashem from the essence of the neshama, I'm not only serving Hashem by Ne'ilah, I'm serving Hashem every day. But did you bring the essence of Neshama with you? Right? Did you bring that bittul, that essence of Neshama with you in your seichel, in your midas? Maybe not. Maybe just a frum yid that is keeping Torah mitzvahs, but you've left behind the essence of Neshama. Once in a while, you'll check in with it. On Ne'ilah, by Yom Kippur, you'll check in with the essence of Neshama. Okay. Right? But have you brought it into everything you do? That's a second stage. That you have to work hard. That takes a lot of avodah. Igniting the Etzem Neshama is more Hashem's work. He gives us the opportunity. He gives us times that we just connect, right? Bringing that essence of Neshama, and it's a very important thing, this, because that oneness with Hashem, we don't only want to feel Bashma Yisrael B'Ne'ilah. We don't only want to feel it when we have the essence of Neshama exposed and revealed. We want to feel it all the time. Going back to what he said before, you want to feel it that you don't feel any different. At least we have the perspective. I'm not saying all about the Madrega, but this is what we have to aspire to. That when we do any avodah, we should have with the same excitement. If you have to set up for a kiddush on Shabbos because that's an important thing to do, it's the same excitement as I'll tell you a quick nice story, the famous story. I'm sure I've told it many times, but it's a beautiful story. It's not a Chabad story; it's a Kotsk story. So in Kotsk Chassidim were known very well, very famous for they were very different. They used to dance on tables. They were like a different sect. So there was a guy, and they were known to do things differently. They were one of the early Hasidic movements. Today it's not so big, but actually today the outcome of the Kotsk Chassidim is the Gerach Chassidim. We're a very big community today. Okay, the Kotsk was very sharp. He was very witty. Anyway, so there was a guy decided he wanted to travel to Kotsk to explore, to research the Kotsk Chassidim. Okay, so he comes in. It's before Yom Kippur. So comes Kol Nidre, and the Gabba of the shul gets up and he gives a clap on the bim and he says, we're going to daven Ma'ariv now. This guy thinks that's such a weird, he never heard such an announcement. Ma'ariv is like what you do every night, like Wednesday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night. Kippur night is not called Ma'ariv, it's called Kol Nidre. You're going to make an announcement, you're not saying, we're going to daven Ma'ariv. That you do any night of the week. I do this every night and every day, 9 o'clock. We have a clap, Ma'ariv, right? You have a clap, Ma'ariv. It's called Nidre. Okay, so he thought, Mam's very weird, he left it. He hangs around the Kotsk for the next 6 months, and he's there for Pesach. Pesach night, after Yontav davening, the Gabba gets up again. He says, everyone should go home to eat dinner. I think himself, are you mad? Dinner's what you do every night. Tonight's a Seder. He couldn't contain himself, and he knocked on the Kotsk Rebbe's door, and he asked him, what's going on here? He asked him, what's this? Kotsk Rebbe looked at him and says, my kid, he says, something you understand, over here in Kotsk, every dinner is a Seder. Every tefillah is a Kol Nidre. Every Ma'ariv is a Kol Nidre, and every Seder every dinner is a Seder. That's the word. The word is you got to bring. That's hard work. To the Seder and the Ne'ilah, that's Hashem's gift to us. Giving the Torah and Har Sinai, that's Hashem's gift to us. But bringing it that excitement, that oneness, that it should live in all parts of our existence, which is Sfira So'omer. What do we do? We work with the 7 midas, but we count each day the same. What's that? That's the process of connecting that oneness of the Etzem Neshama into the nefesh lakis, the chesed, the gevurah tiferes, into the nefesh habamis, because the barley that starts off with this animal food, right? Bringing it into every part of our existence. It's a very important concept, by the way. Again, conception is a very important thing. People think that certain things are more important than others. Right? Yeah, there's no question that certain parts of Yiddishkeit are more inspirational than others. I accept that. Which is why we always learn for these things, and we should. Because you always have to yearn to be spiritual. But when we are like Shabbos in the weekdays, of course you yearn for Shabbos. But when you're forced out of Shabbos, Tuesday is no different than Shabbos. Right? What you do during the week is no difference, because it's all serving Hashem. You want with Hashem, so whatever Hashem wants is one same thing. There's no difference between a biblical mitzvah and a rabbinic mitzvah. Perspective on Allah, we'll say, it's only a rabbinic mitzvah, it's not so important. Now I'm not saying there are halachic criteria, sometimes more leniencies, I got that. But our perspective, our passion, our enthusiasm. I'll give you an example. Someone once told me, when Sukkot is when your Rosh Hashanah is on a Shabbos and Sunday, right? So you don't do lulav on the first day of Sukkot. And we know that biblically you only do lulav the first day of Sukkot. The fact that we do lulav a whole Sukkot now is only midrabanan. It's rabbinic, right? So because Yibri Yochanan Mizaki made it after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Beis Hamikdash was all 7 days. In Chutz La'aretz only 1 day, and now it's a rabbinic mitzvah to remember the Beis Hamikdash to do it all 7 days. Right? So some people when they buy a lulav and esrog, they invest more, they pay extra money. When they get a beautiful esrog, they look, they examine, they buy a nice lulav. They don't just buy the minimum, they buy a nice one, right? Because hidur mitzvah, especially by lulav and esrog, the Torah says it should be a pre-eitz hadar, a beautiful fruit. So hidur, excitement of a mitzvah. Someone said to me, this year you don't have to go so crazy because it's only the Rabbanan this year. I looked at I don't know what he was talking about. What do you mean it's only the Rabbanan? So it's not a mitzvah. So it's only rabbinic, so it's not a strict, so it's Hashem's will. Such a comment only come from someone who didn't learn this kind of stuff. He didn't understand that no. Yeah, you're getting ready, you're keeping all the mitzvahs, but you're not that perspective. I'm not saying any of us are holding by the Etzem and Neshama. I'm just saying the perspective of the Etzem and Neshama. There's no difference. The Reis, the Rabbanan, Hashem's will. You got to do it as much as you can. You got to make it as beautiful as you can. I mean, there's many, many examples of this idea. Now, this ties into the whole idea of Matan Torah. We said Matan Torah is connecting heaven and earth. So it's also the idea of connecting heaven and earth within us also. Etzem and Neshama is like the heaven, right? The rest of us is like the earth. So it starts from within ourselves to connect the highest part of ourselves with the conscious levels of ourselves, which is the lower part of ourselves. And in that, there's 2 stages. Because it says in Chassidus what happened. It says that when the marriage between heaven and earth happened, the connection between heaven and earth happened in Matan Torah, it happened in 2 ways. One was that Hashem came down to the earth, and the other one that He gave it on a mountain, so Moshe Rabbeinu went up on the mountain. In other words, you have to have 2 parts. You have to have the heaven is prepared to come down to the earth, and the earth is prepared to to become more refined and to become more elevated so it can receive the heaven. Right? Same thing over here. The census that it talks about in Parshas Bamidbar, that's Hashem counting the just exposing the Etzem and Neshama. That's like the heaven coming down to earth. It's just giving you a gift of the Etzem and Neshama. But now you've got to do it all the way around. It has to be the Sphira Soimer is the counting of elevating ourselves, from down here upwards, to reveal and to be able to receive that Etzem and Neshama on every layer of our conscious being. Seichel, Midas, behavior, etc. Okay. Sorry? Do the counting?
No, only the men were counted.
No, because I think every man represented the family. I think that's how it works. So he did it on behalf of the woman, I'm assuming. Because women definitely have an Etzem and Neshama. Or the Etzem and Neshama gets revealed faster, so they don't need the counting. I don't know. But whatever it is, it obviously wasn't necessary for this process. The process is still true. It's still